Good evening. My name is Bruce Gillette. It's my joy to be the moderator of Presbyterians for Earth Care. And this evening, it's a particular joy for me to welcome our guest speakers. June and Mark are wonderful friends and have been with them on all kinds of gatherings. And I know they will be a blessing to us all this evening. I'd like to begin this evening with a couple of the verses from a hymn that's written to the tune of Joyful, Joyful, we adore thee. This was written originally for the dedication of a church's solar panels several years ago, and it has been used by a number of churches since then. It's titled At the Dawn of Your Creation, and as I said, it's written to the tune of Ode to Joy. I want it to be a joyful evening, so I will not sing it to you, but I'll share the first and last verses with you. At the dawn of your creation, God, you spoke, let there be light. You divided the earth from heaven. You created day and night. You made sunbeams dance with shadows. You created energy. Peaceful evenings, bright tomorrows all begin with let there be. And it concludes, at this joyful celebration, may we hear your word anew. May we care for your creation, knowing its trust from you. Just as daily there is a dawning, bright light to all we see, so we daily hear your calling, you who once said, let there be. Lord, bless this time together. Bless June and Mark and Presbyterians for Earth Care. In this very hot times, help us to respond by better caring for your creation. We rejoice in all those that are putting on solar panels, driving electric vehicles, and countless other ways, making a difference in this world that needs it. We pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen. So, let us see here. June is an elder and a deacon, and she's been very active in the Warner Memorial Presbyterian Church in Kensington, Maryland for many years. She has retired from her administrative work and she's happy being outdoors, which is really good because that's where her husband likes to be as well. So it makes for a happy marriage. She has spearheaded her congregation's Earth Stewardship team there at the church, which is now in its 15th year. May all Presbyterian churches have been that faithful for that long. And they have all kinds of wonderful projects you're going to hear about. Not only the energy related matters, but gardening, and just a real blessing. She had a fundamental key role in helping this solar project happen. Mark is well known to Presbyterians for Earth Care. He is a retired NOAA oceanographer. He is a rock star and celebrity documentary star, but most of all, he is a member of the steering committee of Presbyterians for Earth Care. And again, these two are wonderful blessings to the church and to God's creation. Take it away, friends.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing, and there we go. Should be seeing the first slide. So what we're going to be talking about is developing community solar at your church, and we'll go beyond that to other solar as well. But the interesting thing about this project was the community solar aspect of it. But let's just put things in a little bit of put things in the matter of the current conditions, and that's the climate change that we're seeing very rapidly. We're breaking climate records regularly. In July of 2023, so last year, temperatures rose above 1.5 degrees of warming for an entire month. It's the first time that had ever happened. And over the last 13 months, the global temperatures have averaged 1.6 degrees above pre-industrial levels, so another first. According to NOAA, the last 10 years were the 10 warmest years in the 175-year record, and probably the last 100,000 years. 2023 was not only the warmest year on record, but it broke the previous record by a record amount. NOAA places the odds that 2024 will be one of the 5 warmest years on record at 100%, despite the fact that we're only halfway through the year so far. And the odds are 95% that 2024 will be one of the 2 top warmest years on record. And you can see why. That black line up here at the top that's just showing the high temperatures that have gone on for the last year and over a year now. And in 2018, the United Nations reported that we only had 12 years to cut emissions of carbon dioxide by 45% to stay within 1.5 degrees of warming. Instead, emissions have increased every year except 2020. And the longer we wait to reduce emissions, the steeper the slope of this curve will get, and the harder and costlier it is to avoid the worst impacts of the climate crisis. And the reason for this is because of the huge amount of carbon dioxide that we're putting into the atmosphere. The largest contributor to CO2 emissions is the burning of fossil fuels from industry, from transportation, and from utilities. Warner's greatest contribution to atmospheric CO2 is from our utilities, including gas used for heating and electricity for everything else. So a major source of our contribution to climate change. We're fortunate at Warner Memorial Presbyterian Church that Maryland has set a goal to reach net zero CO2 emissions by 2045 and provides incentives to individuals and businesses to help achieve that goal. And of course, now there's recent federal legislation, including the Inflation Reduction Act, that have extended and expanded federal incentives to switch to renewable energy and improved ways churches and other nonprofits can access those incentives. So here I'll let June pick up on Warner's story.
Thank you, Mark. At Warner Memorial, our faith tells us that all we are and all we have comes from God. For 15 years, Warner Memorial Presbyterian Church has been a certified Earth Care congregation, employing sustainable and productive landscaping, you see here, advocating for environmental justice, educating our community, and so much more. We are thrilled to finally realize our dream of rooftop solar panels, which provide renewable energy not just for us, but for some of our neighbors as well. As God offers all people the special gift of peace through Jesus Christ, and through Christ reconciles all to God, we are called to deal justly with one another and the earth. In November of last year, Warner Memorial connected a rooftop community solar system to the local power grid in Montgomery County, Maryland. We had a challenge and a dream. Our dream was to replace the electricity that we were getting from Pepco, our electricity supplier, with cleanly generated electricity, and by our example, encourage others to do the same. However, we wanted to do more than just create enough electricity for our needs, but also wanted to maximize the solar output from our roof. If we bought an array of solar panels for our roof, we could not recover our costs during the life of the system. If we instead signed a power purchase agreement, we would not be allowed to generate more electricity than we used. According to the laws in place at that time, these two unsatisfactory options were the only ones available. Despite these challenges, we kept our dream alive, and in 2017, a Warner staff member formed the National Capital Presbytery Youth Carbon Analyst Program, which brought together high school youth to be leaders in energy transformation in our congregations. In 2020, they made a presentation on rooftop solar generation. Profiles of several local churches were presented, including an analysis of our building by a young Warner member. The analysis showed that our roof was capable of operating twice the energy we needed. Thanks to a webinar sponsored by Interfaith Power and Light affiliate in our area, we learned about upcoming state legislation that would make the existing community solar pilot into a permanent program in 2022. In Maryland's program, the owner lessor can use up to half of the electricity generated, and the other half is made available to subscribers in the community. We also learned about funding possibilities through the Montgomery County Green Bank. They helped us develop a community solar program with Skyview Ventures Development, who was eager to begin working with nonprofit organizations and was willing to take on a small project like ours. The Green Bank was key in this project by providing favorable financing for Skyview Ventures. So because Warner Memorial is leasing our roof to them, to Skyview, we had no financial outlay. Although we had recently replaced our aging, leaking roof with new shingles. Skyview Ventures was able to take advantage of new incentives in the federal IRA and offered us a generous electric rate discount in lieu of lease payments.
Excuse me,
June.
June, could you set the slides settings so we only see the slides and not the notes?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh.
We've had a couple of requests.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry
Didn't know
about
you were
that.
seeing the,
That's not the view we
Same.
see.
yep, hang on a second.
Want slideshow under view.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can,
Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. You got to get it right.
didn't realize you were seeing the wrong side.
I wonder if you did. No, that wouldn't work. Portion of screen?
Mindy, you have a tip for him?
Yeah, usually in presenter mode, you don't see the notes.
Jane?
When we were watching it, we could see the choice up at the top for use slideshow. So I don't know if you guys see that or not, but we saw it at the top of your screen.
Yeah, let
Try
me,
that.
You may be sharing the wrong screen. If you
that's what I'm thinking is going on. I'm looking to see if I can,
If you have to go back where you were, I'm still enjoying it, so I don't care.
I'm gonna pause the recording if that's okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
got it.
Ah,
Okay, here we go.
So now you only see the slide with our partners.
Okay,
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So Skyview Ventures was able to take advantage of new incentives in the federal IRA and offered us a generous electric rate discount in lieu of lease payments. Our Earth Stewardship team shepherded a contract through all the required approvals and negotiated a rate reduction averaging 27%. But we could have taken most of this rate reduction for our own use. However, we chose to use the average reduction, 27%, only for Warner Memorial's half of the generated electricity. And to offer a smaller rate discount, 10%, which is the average discount in this area for residential electric on a community solar project, to 3 households for access to 1/4 of the electricity. And this enabled us to pass along a large rate reduction of 44% on the remaining electricity produced to Housing Unlimited, a nonprofit organization that seeks to provide affordable housing to very low income adults in mental health recovery in Montgomery County. Our community solar project connected to the grid on November 17th of 2023. Hasn't even been a whole year yet. The energy rate discounts began in December. We expect to use only 41,000 kilowatts of the total 82,000 kilowatts projected annual energy production. The completed project is 160 panels with a maximum output of 72 kilowatts. Through this project, Warner Memorial is striving to follow Jesus' instruction to love our neighbor. This collaboration of diverse shareholders, stakeholders, the county government, private developers, a solar installer, a church, and a nonprofit organization, exemplify the power of community in addressing local, social, and environmental challenges. It yields two benefits. It replaces carbon-intensive electricity with carbon-free solar, and it provides electricity at a reduced cost for our church building and for financially pressed members of our community. Anyone can go to our website to view our energy production. And it was interesting to see the effect of the recent solar eclipse in April that was recorded by the software. So it wasn't a full eclipse here in Montgomery County. So it's not, but you can see it's chopped off there. Additionally, as news of our project spreads, we have received many inquiries from other congregations and organizations on possibilities for solar at their properties, like tonight. In February of this year, we were honored to be chosen as a winning entry in the Interfaith Power and Light Cool Congregations Challenge as a renewable energy role model. This accolade was also spreading the good news of our climate actions. We may be in a red brick church, but we are working to be a green stewards in our community and for the environment. Thank you.
So of course, there are a number of different options for going solar. And I'm going to go through and talk about some of the different ways that you can do this. The three big ones, one is if your church actually owns the solar panels. The second is a power purchase agreement. And the third is a way that even if you don't have any panels on your property, you can purchase power from community solar. So we'll go through each one of those. One of the partners that we used and that is very valuable in this is Interfaith Power and Light. They've been doing work now for more than 2 decades, partnering with thousands of congregations to address climate change. And they have a wealth of resources to help you in your journey to go solar. And in the map, you'll see congregations all across the US that are now producing their own energy from the sun. The first of these options is that you own the solar panels. Either the church outright purchases the solar panels, has the installation done, or you set up an LLC, a corporation, to purchase the panels. Option one's the simplest, but has the highest upfront cost. And in the past, churches couldn't access federal tax incentives to help finance solar. This gave rise to the idea of setting up corporations or LLCs specifically to fund solar panels and provide a mechanism to access federal tax incentives that were only available to individuals or corporations with a significant tax burden. Good news, LLCs are no longer required for churches to access federal tax incentives, and I'll speak more on that later. Interfaith Power and Light has a number of resources to help you through this journey. They have resources for finding ways to finance your solar project, which of course is a big problem churches have in figuring out how to set up a solar installation. And also finding solar installers. They've partnered with Energy Sage for this and for other activities as a way of finding a good installer in your area. In addition, in the Presbyterian Church, we have this great advantage that the Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program has set up Restoring Creation loans. These provide access to money to finance solar panel installations, as well as other energy efficiency projects such as new heating and ventilation systems. Warner, in fact, replaced its sanctuary air conditioning with a new system using a loan from ILP. Very low rate loans. That's the important part of it. And in addition to what I was saying, now there are mechanisms where you can get federal funding through the tax incentives directly to your church or to your solar installer using a direct pay system. Interfaith Power and Light on their website has access to this portal, IRS portal, on how to get paid, how to go through the process and set all of this up. And there's a wealth of information on this, but I'm not going to tell you any more about it. And the reason is because next week, 1 week from now, Mr. Ronald Newman from the U.S. Department of Treasury will be giving a PEC webinar on how your church can access IRA funds for solar, electric vehicles, and more. So tune in a week from now to get the details on how the IRA funding, especially through the direct pay, can work for your church. So the second option you have is to work through a solar developer. They can install the panels and you buy power for them at no cost to your congregation. This is also the method you could use to set up community solar if all the stars are aligned and you can pull together the sort of partnership that we did at Warner. And we're able to set up a larger solar installation than we would have been able to directly if we hadn't been able to go the approach of community solar using a solar developer. So with this, yeah, it's kind of surprising. Companies are putting up solar on your church for free, costs you nothing up front. The way this works is you pay nothing for the solar panel and installation. You get a solar project that they'll set it up and say, okay, here you go. And then your congregation will get solar energy generated by the panels at a discounted rate. The company as a part of that pays for the solar panels and installation, hires the installer, arranges for permitting, ensures it, takes responsibility for most repairs and maintenance, and owns the panel for the term of the agreement. Now, there is a clause in there that usually will allow the church to be able to buy out those solar panels after a certain amount of time in this arrangement. So you'll find that's often a part of these arrangements. And because there's been so much work going on with power purchase agreements in the DC area, IPL's Washington, DC area chapter has walked this path with multiple congregations, and it's pulled together some excellent resources, including this video on YouTube from a presentation that they made. You can take advantage of what they've learned and pull together for our area and then see what you can make work in your area. Even better, look and see what resources your local IPL affiliate may pull together and things that you can do to work through your state and local options, because the local regulations and the laws varying state to state and even from one power company to another can vary what operations you can set up and how you can do this. And finally, the last option is community solar, where you are not supplying the electricity, but you are purchasing it. So there is the situation where you have no panels on your property at all, and you can purchase power from a community solar provider. For some states that have established community solar and allow this to happen, you can use community solar to purchase clean, renewable energy at a significant savings, all without any solar panels on your property. But it does vary from place to place. We can do community solar here in Maryland, right across the river in Virginia. They can't do community solar. So it is something where you'll have to watch to see what goes on in your area. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Bruce and let Bruce tell you about next week's seminar and a little word from our sponsors, and then we'll be able to answer questions for you.
Thank you, Mark and June. All that I had hoped for and more. Excellent presentation, and we look forward to hearing people's questions. I will say the slide that is being shown right now could be updated. We're very happy that Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program, PILP, is now co-sponsoring the July 23rd seminar as well, and their president is one of the people coming. Another person who's coming next week we're very excited about is the co-moderator of the General Assembly. And he's interested not only as a national leader for our church, but he has a nice size roof there in South Carolina that Tony says he's interested in having solar panels on it as well. Ronald Newman has been making himself known to churches around the country. Just before the General Assembly, he spoke to the House of Bishops for the Episcopal Church when they were meeting in Louisville, Kentucky. We're very grateful that a Presbyterian News Service reporter who I think is on tonight, that Mike Ferguson did a story on Ronald Newman with the Episcopalians and a follow-up interview. And that news story happened just a couple of days before the General Assembly. That in turn inspired the General Assembly Environment and Climate Justice Committee to invite Mr. Newman to talk to them. And they were so impressed by him, they asked that they're part of their docketed time, very precious time, that they were going to present to the plenary meeting of the General Assembly, that some of that be given over to Ronald Newman. And so he gave a 10-minute talk and again impressed the people, because basically he has billions of dollars and he's looking not only for individual churches, but individuals to make use of these Inflation Reduction Act funds. I can tell you, I have a brand new electric vehicle out in my driveway here that Carolyn and I picked up on Friday, and it's $7,500 less the list cost because we were able to make use of those IRA funds. You can use it for all kinds of things in your church as well as in your homes. And you'll hear all about that next week, but we hope you can join us. And if you can't, just like this presentation, the one next week will also be recorded and will be available on the Presbyterians for Earth Care website. The slideshow you saw this evening, the PowerPoint will be also posted on the website, as well as helpful additional links for you to explore for more information. And this is a church-based group, so of course we want you to feel familiar with it being church-based, and so we have an offering. We are not going to be passing the plate tonight, but we'd encourage you to think about giving generously to the PresbyterianEarthCare.org/giving secure website. We need your funds to provide all kinds of free programs to advocate not only within the church, but in the world for a better world. And a time, as Mark pointed out at the beginning of his talk, where it is desperately, urgently needed. So you can also, if you go to that PresbyEarthCare.org website, you can find a snail mail, a postal way of sending your contribution as well. So enough, let's move to some questions. And the best way we can do this is if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a heading that says reaction. And if you click that, at the bottom of the icons, there's one that says raise hand. And if you raise your hand, that will put you at the top of the gallery setting, and we will be happy to call on you. If you do want to ask a question, I'd ask you to be prepared by unmuting yourself at that point so that we don't have to remind you to do so. So click the raise hand and let us know if you have a question, please. Linda, I don't know if you were raising your hand or just saying hi. You're muted, so I don't know. No, okay. They did such a comprehensive job. They may have covered everything. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I have one. As somebody who's installed solar panels on both my home and the church, how big is your system there? How many panels do you have?
It's 160 panels.
Okay.
72 kilowatt peak.
And like most panels, I assume they're guaranteed for 25 years, right?
Yep.
I'd like somebody else to tell me
Guaranteed
something.
to give 90, no less than 92%.
I want to hear some other product that's guaranteed for that length of time. Judy, Judy, you're up first.
Question. I'm from Hilton Head, South Carolina, and we're known for our live oak trees. And we've been told that our roof is too steep to put the panels on, plus we don't have a lot of sun. But what we were thinking is putting panels out away from away from the building and having them just like you see in green cities. Is that also allowable with the IRA, I guess it's called?
Yes. Yes, it is. You know, whether the solar panels are on shading a parking lot or just on the ground, it doesn't matter.
And
Okay,
I-
thank you.
the
I
one
would
thing,
check
you
with
know,
the contractor. I would check with the contractor about the roof because not all contractors are familiar with the different ways of installing, even on steep roofs, also on slate roofs. What really matters is the angle that they are facing. Are they facing what they call solar south for maximum productivity? But
Right.
you can, Mark or June, would you agree that you can put them on fairly steep roofs?
It depends on the zoning in your area. There are limitations, like how close they can be to the ridge line, how close they can be to the edge of the roof, things like that. If it's a solar installer that you were consulting with, they probably do know whether it's a pitch, your roof is
Right.
pitched that they can accept it. Yeah.
It costs a
other
little
thing-
more money to put them on a piece of property rather than on a roof. If
Yeah.
you had unlimited funds, covering a parking lot is fantastic because
right.
it keeps the parking lot cool. It doesn't waste land that might be used for other purposes, but there's more expense involved in that.
Mhm.
And the
That's
in-between
answer
is
your-
putting it on some, on rocky land or something like that, possibly.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that you have to worry about is when you do something like that is the increase in cost. You know, what impact is it going to have on the cost of the installation? Because if you're putting it on a roof, you already have most of the structure there. The frame for that is fairly inexpensive. If you have to go out and build a structure, if you have to do these as freestanding or as roofing type structures, the cost goes up. And so it'll be a matter of working with the people who are doing the installation and seeing whether it makes sense financially for your situation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Is it Katie next?
Yes, yes. Hi, I'm Katie Rigler. Thank you for doing this presentation. I'm in Richardson, Texas. And I have two questions. The first is at Warner, do you have a battery to store any of the energy?
No, we continue to remain connected to the grid. Basically, we just have a little power plant on our roof.
Okay,
So our roof is now part of the renewable energy resources of the state.
okay. Yeah,
The
and
electricity goes to the grid,
uh-huh.
and we draw whatever electricity from the grid we need.
Yeah, okay. The reason I was
We
asking.
do something called net metering.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I was asking, because when I got on early, y'all were talking about extreme weather. Sometimes we have extreme weather here, and we don't have any power for sometimes weeks at a time. So we were, wondering if there would be a benefit from having a battery. And I know it costs almost as much to get the battery as it does to get the solar panels, but to have a place where the community could come
Mhm.
when the power goes out and everyone needs to charge their phones and, nothing's open and nothing's available. And along that same vein, then, how durable are the solar panels?
How
Like
to- Oh,
for
you mean in
hail
terms of
and for,
hail
yes,
or
yes.
storms, very durable.
Okay,
And they are made with a surface that tends to deflect dirt.
okay. Thank
They
you.
also, if they're mounted right, the brackets can keep them in place for winds up to 150 miles an hour.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
You can
The other
also
thing we
work
keep
with
seeing-
your local civic associations. Some of them are very willing. I know where I live, we have problems with flooding, and we have some designated places where the emergency relief people have provided generators and all kinds of equipment. And I'd be willing to bet they would be thrilled to have a large battery backup that could be used in your area. So they could share in the cost on that. And
Right.
you can come back next week and ask Ronald Newman. I would imagine, Mark or Judy, I would think the IRA would provide some funding for batteries, don't you think? I know
It does. In fact, battery systems are a part of what's allowed under the IRA funding. And so if you want to build that in the system, that's useful. An important thing to keep in mind in terms of batteries is you have two things that you can do with a battery system. One is a substantial battery system that will keep going through the night and provide a lot of power for a long time. The other is to have a fairly small battery system, but that, along with a little bit different installation, will allow your system to continue to make solar power even when the power is out. So our system, which is the most common system, if your power is out, the solar won't make electricity either. So it does not work independently of the power grid. But you can do that with a battery backup and with the proper installation of equipment to set up make the sine wave of the electricity so that it can continue to serve as a daytime power source. And that's something that you can seriously consider if you really want to make sure that it's providing electricity at times of disasters.
You also understand the reason, even though the system may be operational, they turn it off is they don't want that going out on power lines and putting utility workers at risk. So when the system shuts down, they need to shut it down in a variety of ways, unless you have it feeding into a battery backup system on the property. But again, I think it's 30% from the Inflation Reduction Act. Is that the funding?
That's correct.
So you-
And
Sure.
there are bonuses in the IRA if you're in a underserved or low income geographic area
Right.
Or energy community.
or energy, right?
And another thing to think about is the more we can get people doing solar, the less strained it is on the grid, the less possibility possibly of the grid getting knocked out. So all kinds of reasons to be considering solar. Judy, you still have your hand up. I'm happy to call on you after some other people. Bob, did you have a question?
I had a comment, when we first started our project, one of the problems was finding a contractor. We have a steep roof. One contractor said he doesn't do steep roofs. Another contractor said he doesn't do churches. Another contractor said he only does residents. So it actually took us about 9 months to find a contractor that would do it. Fortunately, we found one who presented us with the idea of a solar system. 6 years later, we're still trying to get it turned on.
Oh,
Is that from the
are
utility
you?
company or the contractor?
That's a combination. For example, the electrical inspection took 7 inspections by the city of New York to get it approved. And now we're waiting for the approval of the utility, Con Edison.
And
My other
thought
question
you
is, I
had-
thought the IRA only provided tax benefits and therefore churches couldn't do anything. In our case, that's why we had the installer own the system so he could get the tax breaks and pass them on to us. But the church couldn't get any benefit out of it on its own.
Right.
And that was the situation before the Inflation Reduction Act. But with the Inflation Reduction Act, putting in place programs that allow direct pay to nonprofit organizations, that made it possible to be able to get it directly. But that's, you'd been working on it for a long time before that came into play.
Yeah.
And that also is only paying for installation of new equipment. It doesn't pay for any of the operating costs or anything else that's incurred.
No.
Bob,
That's correct.
Bob, my contact information is on the PEC website. As a fellow New Yorker, I'll be happy to talk to you about ways we can advocate help you get online and operational.
Well,
I
it's
would-
supposed to be any day now, so we'll
Well-
keep waiting.
You'll have our prayers sooner than later.
Thank you.
I will tell you that different areas of the country operate at different levels of making these things happen sooner than later. But as more and more contractors are experienced, as well as the government officials, it is coming around a lot quicker than it has been in many areas of the country. And as Mark and Judy pointed out, there are some good contractors listed on the IPNL website now. So that can be a help too. David?
Yes, I have two comments and a question. The two comments are, first, Judy, if you're going to put it not on the roof and put it on over a parking lot or a park, making sure it's on your actual property. I know that there are some congregations that have parking lots across the street, and that is going to be, it'll be a problem because when you cross the wires across the street, that's a no-no in terms of the ability to actually do that, because that becomes a public utility. So just FYI on that. Second, as storage is coming down, battery prices are coming down. There are, provide a lot of benefits already just mentioned, including, a cooling station, a place for people to plug in their batteries, their phones, etc. That's proved to be very useful in California during their wildfires, etc. So definitely something that could be another benefit to the community that you can provide. Then my question is, I want to learn a little bit more about how you obtained the community solar off-takers, and how much they purchased, and how was that arranged?
So how did we gain our subscribers?
Yes.
Okay. So when we decided to divide it into 3 parts, half for the church, 25% for members of the congregation, and 25% for Housing Unlimited, our developer, Skyview Ventures, already had a relationship with Housing Unlimited, where they were already on other projects of theirs providing. They had actually installed onto the roof of Housing Unlimited homes. Housing Unlimited owns homes that are for people in recovery or with adults with mental illness who wouldn't otherwise be able to live independently on their own. And they had installed solar projects on the roofs of some of these homes. And so there was an immediate already connected. They recommended Housing Unlimited to us. And so we talked with Housing Unlimited and we said, yes, this is a great organization that we want to help. The other part of it, the congregants, we just put it out to the congregation. We said, if you're interested in getting a 10% discount off the Pepco rate and being a part of our community solar project, apply here. And I think we only could have 3 congregants because of the size of our array. So it's not like we had a lot of subscribers. We're a very small community solar project compared to those that are around us. Does that answer your question?
It does. The only one follow-up question was, was the contractor did the arrangement for the financial, for the bill, reductions and things like that to show up on the, your congregants and the other, members of the community solar?
Yeah, so
Right.
Skyview Ventures was already set up through one of their activities to be able to do the billing and to work with Pepco for all of that. So they basically receive the benefits from Pepco for providing all of that electricity, get payment from Pepco for all the electricity going onto the grid. They then use their system to do the billing directly to the individuals, so individuals were able to get billed directly for their electricity. One of the changes that just went into effect this last year in Maryland, while we had community solar in the past, you got separate billing, and now they were able to pull those together so that you could actually get your community solar bill on your regular utility bill.
And so that's residential yet.
It's not quite working, but they're moving that way. But the good thing was, in terms of your question of getting people, we had twice as many, roughly, people interested in subscribing as we had space for.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did,
Mm.
including us. We didn't
Yeah,
get, we didn't get in.
subscribe. Yeah, we wanted to hold that opportunity open for others who were not already on community solar.
Right.
All right, Douglas, do you have a
We have
question or
We
comment?
have a,
I'm sorry.
or
Didn't mean
these
to
other
cut you
people
off.
raise their
We'll go
hands.
ahead and get these hands and then we'll go to the ones on
Yeah.
chat.
Okay.
Yeah, good evening, folks. Again, great project and always excited to hear this. I come from various backgrounds. First of all, being a pastor. Second of all, being an energy consultant. And I actually work with Montgomery County in terms of their technical consulting. So the question I had, I put in the chat here, in terms of the project itself, did you consider energy efficiency measures, obviously reducing not to use, or electrification in this project? Electrification being moving from sort of fossil fuels to electrified services. Were any of those considered as part of this project?
Not as part of this project, because we had already instituted energy conservation projects through the Empower Maryland program. We are all LED and have been for several years. And we, as a part of a different capital improvement project at the building, we had increased our attic insulation. And I'm trying to, we have a upgraded air conditioning, which is room by room with splits, except for the sanctuary. And so, you know, we had already done quite a bit of energy conservation before we went to rooftop panels.
Which is the way to go, absolutely.
Yeah. And the next thing we may be considering is, depending on what happens with the aging boiler and pumped heated water system, we may be looking at some heat pumps and
Exactly.
changes to that system, perhaps sooner than we would like to.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
We have some rooms that we've had to change to electrify, you know, use splits instead of using our boiler heat.
And the Inflation Reduction Act can help you with the heat pumps too, right?
It can, yes.
It can, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Again, the other part of it is to make that available to those who can't afford necessarily to buy their own solar, to get it at a reduced energy at a reduced cost. So, I mean, it all goes together. So great project, great work.
Thank you, Douglas. It's my pleasure to recognize the vice moderator of Presbyterians for Earth Care. Jane, welcome.
Thank you. I have a little bit of an off the wall or off the roof question. I attend a historic church and we have a slate roof. And it's a steep slate roof, but the contractor was able to find space for 58 panels on the flat roof. Now, we would like more solar panels. And so we are trying to find out about an awning, like a shade awning that would go maybe over the door, the entrance, or over some windows that we have. And we're just having a very difficult time finding anyone who would, you know, create the structure and then be able to put up the panels. And just
Right.
wondered if anyone had any experience with that.
You know, you're really going back to Judy's question earlier about wanting to put the panels somewhere else other than up on the roof.
yeah, you're talking about building a separate structure.
Yeah.
Right.
So that requires a little more creativity. There certainly are groups that are out there that are doing it. I see a comment from Margaret about the parking lot coverage at Emory University. There are a lot of universities, a lot of high schools in some parts of the country, even parking lots for businesses. I've seen out in California and elsewhere in the West, you know, Costco and Walmart parking lots with, you know, large roofed areas with the roof being solar panels. But you're talking about a significant increase in cost because you've got the cost of the
Right.
structure as well. And that cost of that structure may or may not be covered under the IRA. That gets more
Yeah,
complicated.
good
I
point.
think Jane
Yeah.
was asking if anybody on the call
Yeah.
today has had
So
experience.
the other thing I didn't mention is we are a downtown church and we have a very small parking lot.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
one of the
Jane?
churches
Go
in
ahead.
our area, at the same time as we were putting this in place, wanted to do that. They wanted to build a parking structure and put panels on it. They're not doing it yet, but maybe with direct pay through the IRA, they will.
Mhm.
Jane, we had a solar contractor at a previous PEC webinar. His name is Dale Davis, and he's been doing this for many years. He's also very well connected nationally to solar contractors. I will give you his contact information and you can reach out to him about awnings. I do want to tell folks, since these are guaranteed for 20 years, you want to make sure your roof's in decent shape because, you know, on the flip side of it though, I put a 50-year roof on my home in Delaware. And then a couple of years later, we decided to put solar panels on it. We were concerned that would compromise the roof warranty. Well, the roofer looked at how the contractor was putting on the different attachments for placing the panels on top of them. And he said it wouldn't compromise the warranty at all, because if you think about it, those panels basically serve as a protective covering for the roof, and the roof will probably last even longer because of the solar panels on top of them.
That's
So,
what we were told, that
yep.
having the solar panels will double the life of that part of the
Right.
roof.
Wow.
And they do generate a bit of heat, so they have to be raised off the roof a little bit. I remember when they were putting them on the roof, they put one on the lawn in preparation of putting it up on the roof, and it quickly browned the green grass because it was warm. So it may also in the wintertime give you a little heat for the roof that you might not otherwise have there. So that's not bad. They are warm, so if you have snow, they will melt quickly. So they really are very nice. And if it is raining, I always tell my people, well, God wanted to wash off the panels. But if you don't have any trees nearby, you don't have to worry about the pollen and the dust. There are no maintenance. Like I said, you can't ask for a longer lasting, easy to use product. Other questions or comments?
While we're watching for other questions or comments, I will say that at our house, we have too many big, tall trees for it to have made sense to put solar on. And that was the case last time we had checked on it. Recently, we checked, and we're probably just about to sign a contract for solar for our home, because now with the IRA reductions, with the changes in the solar panels so that each individual panel is separate, so if one is shaded, it doesn't affect the rest. There are things that are making it work out even for a situation with as many trees as we have.
7-year payback.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you. So when we installed them in the church in Delaware, we had 180 panels. We were feeling really good about that. A couple years later, my Methodist friends down the street got 500 panels, a huge, huge solar.
Big
And they
roof.
invited me to the celebration, and I got to speak briefly. And I said, you can have special rights of thankfulness that you are number one with the most solar panels of any church in the state. Now, the Presbyterians will always be first because we did it first, but you're going to be number one for size. I said the challenge for us all, though, is how many of our church members and neighboring businesses can we get to go solar? Have you guys found that people are asking you questions, and maybe besides the two of you, are you finding other church members getting the solar panels because you got them on your church roof?
Not yet, but there are people talking about it. It certainly has started the discussion. And one of the things that we made sure of when we put together the plan, we were confident this would work out anyway, but the western side of our church roof or sanctuary roof faces Connecticut Avenue, which anyone knows the DC area is a major thoroughfare. There are a lot of people going through. We said, even if it's not the most efficient place, we want those panels on the Connecticut Avenue side because we want people driving past to be able to look up and see those panels in place. And so, that helps to make sure that it's communicated broadly and people are thinking about, hey, if they're doing it there, maybe I can too.
Yeah, and there's a big sign out front provided by the Montgomery County Green Bank that says solar roof financed by, and it has the Green Bank, Skyview Ventures, and Warner Memorial right on there.
Well, I hope you find what we found in Delaware. We had a church treasurer who was a IBM middle management, had a PhD in accounting, very gifted guy, but very cynical about the panels. But after we got them up on the roof, he suddenly discovered new checks in the offering plate that he hadn't seen before because we were attracting new people to the church, especially young families that were concerned about the future and young adults. So I hope you guys, and it's good if they're visible. It's also really important to have information about them on your website because we all know people check us out online before anything else. So
You
other
can go
questions
to
or
our website and
comments?
see how they're producing.
There you go. And the technology is great now so that everybody can look at it online to see how much they produced in the last few hours, a few days, weeks, months, years. I mean, it's incredible, the easy way to look at how it's all doing. For those of you who are considering doing it, remind the grandparents they want to leave a better world for their grandchildren. Give generously. If you got memorial funds, what better thing for those who've joined the church triumphant than to help the church here and now into the future by getting solar panels? So tap the memorial funds as well. But over a period of time, between the IRA funding and the savings on electric, you could pay the panels off in a fairly short period of time, long before the warranty on the panels are done. So if you got a south-facing roof, you're predestined to have to get this.
Hi, Bruce. Just a question. Could you put your contact information in the chat? I'd like to reach out to you. You said you have churches in Delaware. We have several churches in Delaware, Maryland, and would like to kind of have a conversation with you, maybe coming in and talking with them. It's always good to have, folks who've done it.
Are you Presbyterian? What's your church?
No, we are United Methodist, actually Methodist.
I'd be happy to help out the United Methodist. My wife was one when we got married. So fine denomination. We have fond memories of Bishop Peggy Johnson when she was the bishop for that region of the country. Drop me an email. We can have a phone call, our own little Zoom meeting about it. Be happy to help you out.
Sure, thank you.
Katie?
Yeah, I know this is being recorded. So since we registered, will we have access to this recording?
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
All the
And
quicker
the
if you make a
slides.
donation. No, just everybody gets it. Katie, are you at Emory or what's your?
Oh,
preferred-
no, I'm in Richardson, Texas. I'm
Okay.
just like a suburb of Dallas. We are an Earth Care congregation. I'm at St. Barnabas Presbyterian Church. I'm the pastor there. And we have been considering solar. We considered it before COVID, and then after COVID, it kind of got put on the back burner as we got, cameras instead. But it's definitely someplace that we want to move. I mean, as most congregations, we do have a lot of older people, and they have come a long way since we started talking about it, and realizing, why we need to do it and why it's important for the financial future of the church too. So I still feel like it's a ripe time, and I don't want it to fall off the radar again.
And
We're-
especially
we're
right
gonna-
now, with the IRA funds that are in place now, this is a great time to be moving on it.
Yeah, there's a
Mhm.
couple of
Okay.
hands.
We're going to stop the recording now, but the conversation can continue. There's actually people waiting to ask questions that didn't want to be on YouTube. So